This is something that I've been talking about with KG over the last few nights. Is the idea that maybe there was a level of disrespect maybe that was involved. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there was a level of disrespect that Jalen Brunson felt when he wasn't offered that first deal in the last offseason, I should say. That 4 for 55, similar to what Dorian Finney-Smith ultimately got. And then if, kind of the way that the Mavericks, in some ways, you could see it as drag their feet to get him a deal. I mean, as somebody who's in that building, do you get any level of impression of that, Chris?
No, and I know JB pretty well. I don't think he ever looked at it like that. His dad's a different story. Now, Rick, all about the business, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just what he's looking at, when you say the disrespect. For those,
and of course, I don't want it to make it seem like he hates him or anything.
Let me paint the picture until we get Tim back on. Let me paint the picture of how the Mavericks wound up in this spot in the first place. The contract that Donnie Nelson drew up had no team option at the end there where they could just match it. All right. At the beginning of the year, they said Rick's Jalen's dad. They were ready to sign a 4-year, $55 million deal. And of course, the Mavericks hadn't even seen him play yet. He come off a terrible playoffs. This is a new head coach, Jason Kidd, who's defense first. And also, he's like, let me see what I got. Let me see what I got with Porzingis. Remember, people were telling him to trade Porzingis in the summer. Like, let me see what we got here. Let me see if I can start Jalen. At that time, Jalen was coming off the bench. Jalen loves Jason Kidd. Fast forward to January. You get to January, they have all kinds of offers and trying to make deals with Porzingis. Well, you have to have an expiring contract of JB and an expiring contract of Dorian Finney-Smith. Once they were able to trade Porzingis to Washington, they said, okay, hey, JB, here's that offer. Hey, Dorian, here's that offer. They gave Dorian his money. Dorian signed it. Some people said that's too much money. They found out later that was perfect money for Dorian
Absolutely.
Finney-Smith. JB and Rick said, wait a minute, we're going to wait till the end of the year.
Because it started looking up for him. And we've got our guy, Tim Cato of The Athletic, back on the Diamond Factory hotline. Tim, I was just talking with CA here, and I was asking him if maybe there would be any level of disrespect maybe that the Jalen Brunson and his camp might have felt in the way that, that 4 for 55 deal didn't get offered to him in the last offseason, and kind of maybe you could perceive it as the Mavs, kind of shuffling their feet on him. Did you get any impression of anything of the sort?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was speaking too much truth. I got cut off there. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that 4 for 55 was never officially offered in the season by the Mavericks. What's unclear to me is what sort of impact that made. I think all of us in January were pretty clear that Brunson had outplayed that he was going to be making more money. I mean, once he came into the starting lineup and thrived like he did, it doesn't take really high level sourcing to look at how he was playing and understand that he was going to command more than that. So, the Mavericks weren't going to sign him for 4 for 55
nope.
in January. It's just that does not even pass a logic test for me. And I've heard as much as well. So now. Jalen Brunson, it's possible he felt, unappreciated by not getting that offer either before the season or during the season. I think that's a possibility, and something I've been trying to dig more into and will continue as in the coming days. But yeah, no, it's clear that the Mavericks felt at that point that they would be able to negotiate with Jalen Brunson this summer, even though he's an unrestricted free agent. That this is when they're going to try to offer a deal that made sense. And depending on what side you believe, either Jalen was just, fully committed to the Knicks, or what the Mavericks did offer him was just so much lower than what the Knicks are offering on an annual basis that, it just made his decision very simple.
Tim, you and I both have friends who work in the media in New York, let alone some people in the front office and players and former players. That's a tough city to live in and work in if they're not all in on you. I always think with that kind of a contract, not the fact that it's so much money, because it's not that kind of crazy money. It's not like he's making $40 million a year, $37 million. He's not making John Wall money. But the fact that they cleared out the roster and skipped a draft to make room for him, To me, there's got to be another play as well. There's got to be another player that they're trying to get. Have you heard anything else? Because I cannot imagine just him, R.J. Barrett, and Julius Randle making up the core of that team, and the Knicks fans are going to be satisfied with that.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I don't have any real info to go off of, but it does. I would say that those who I do know in New York and those the people I trust definitely don't feel like this is it. And even if this is it, they're not viewing this as a completed roster. That there will be more moves to come. That players like Barrett and Randle, will probably Randle certainly much more so than Barrett, who they're trying to lock up to the extension. But these are players who are going to be available. These are that they're going to be aggressive going forward. So yeah, I would agree with that assessment.
Tim, we've obviously gotten reports that JaVale McGee has agreed to a 3-year, $20 million deal with these Dallas Mavericks. What do you have on how they view him, what they're expecting of him? And just a little clerical thing, that is the mid-level exception, is it not?
Yeah, if that's a reported $21 million, then that is the full thing, which is interesting because my understanding was they were going to save a little bit of money to sign Jaden Hardy. They would need to use a little bit of that to sign him to a 4-year deal. So I'm still trying to clarify that. But yeah, if it's at the reported $21 million, that's the full taxpayers mid-level exception that they have available. He's a good player. I do want to make that clear. He is, you remember Nico Harrison saying in exit interviews that the team wanted, rebounding and shot blocking.
Right.
And they got rebounding with Christian Wood. Christian Wood's a really good rebounder. He's not a shot blocker in that way. He's all right. He can do aspects of it. This is not an elite defensive player. In fact, the biggest concern with him is that he's going to be well below average. And so I do think that JaVale gives them traditional shot blocking in a way that they don't have on the roster. I really love Maxi Kleber and what he can do. He does like non-traditional shot blocking. He's kind of he'll block his own man a lot of the times, but he's not someone who's going to fly in from the weak side and be a rim deterrent. Just kind of a massive space filling guy in that manner. And JaVale can do that, and certainly he's very, very good as a lob threat on the other end as well. So I think it's a good move for them in terms of how he fits. The money is interesting to give him 3 years. There's reports saying that JaVale was looking for a 2-year deal, and they not only gave him 3 years, but a player option. That's interesting to me. Still trying to work my head around that. And it also gives them a lot of centers. Certainly, Christian Wood, Maxi Kleber, JaVale McGee, Dwight Powell, Davis Bertans, if you want to count him. I think there's a very good chance that Dwight Powell, Davis Bertans, perhaps Tim Hardaway Jr. My guess, and this is a guess, is that is what the Mavericks like. The Mavericks are shopping trades right now around the league, not for KD, not for Kyrie, but they're shopping trades right now, and I that's my guess as to how this offseason will continue, is that there's a trade to be made, and then probably Goran Dragic will be coming here. I would speculate. I know Mark Stein has reported that he's of interest. That might be the offseason. Pretty much done and dusted right there.
Well, you give me a lot of intrigue here, Tim Cato of The Athletic, that's joining us on the Diamond Factory Hotline on 105 through the Fan. The idea that there might be a trade out there. The one thing that I personally have had some level of issues with is which of these contracts, which of these players, which of these assets would the Mavericks be looking to kind of utilize in that? Do you have any impression as to what that would be for the Mavs?
Who they'd be looking at?
Well, who would they be using on their team? Because the one, at least for me, that I look at is Dorian Finney-Smith, but you can't trade him till the 10th of August, correct?
Right. No, I think it would be Dwight Powell, it would be Tim Hardaway Jr., it would be Davis Bertans. Those are easily the three players that the Mavericks would most be looking to move, in my opinion. Josh Green is a player that perhaps they would need to toss into a deal. Certainly future first-round picks might, but it depends on what player they're going for also. And I definitely feel like this is what they're looking for at the moment. I'm not even guaranteeing a trade will happen. But I would be pretty surprised if they aren't on the phones right now, really shopping around, various forms of those players and other positive assets that they have in terms of draft dates of an interesting, intriguing prospect who's still a little ways away, and Josh Green, stuff like that. So I would guess that's what the Mavericks are thinking right now. I think the core of the team, the players that played the bulk of the postseason minutes, I would be pretty surprised if any of those players were involved in any sort of trade this offseason. I guess with the exception of Dwight Powell, who was really just a nominal starter down the stretch. But that's my hunch. That's where my head is right now. And, I guess we'll see. So we're not at a point in the offseason where, we're going to know for sure, at this point.
I agree with you that all options are on the table except for Luka Doncic. And the reason I say that is because this organization has proven over a whole year, since last summer, that they are stealth. And they've gotten things done and surprised most experts. In fact, I think it was Nick Lowe said there are so many people deleting their tweets from last summer, they can't see straight. I want to ask you, Tim, about the point production of Jalen Brunson. People seem to forget that Tim Hardaway Jr. is coming back. We're not talking about a guy that's going to dribble the ball. We're talking about point production. Spencer Dinwiddie can also score points. You've got guys who can score points, and it's not just, okay, you're missing Jalen Brunson, who scored 20-something points a game in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't think it's a good thing that Jalen Brunson just left the Mavericks for nothing.
Right.
But I don't think it's I don't think it's a catastrophe. I think that there are clear ways that they can replace him on the roster. I do think that as important as it is, or as much success as the Mavericks found using, kind of rotating three guards, always having two point guards on the floor at all times. I do think that Jalen and Luka had a little bit of overlap. And again, this is not a slight to Jalen whatsoever. And he is a player who, I think in the future may be able to shoot more threes, be a off-ball player. But, it's interesting. You look at his numbers on a per minute basis. His stats are really similar from last season to the season before. Like, the narrative, everybody believes that, oh yeah, Jalen Brunson, he had his breakout season. And I think that's fair. He did. He got a bunch more minutes. And there is value to playing, 6 or 7 more minutes and increasing your stats, and keeping them up, on that level. That is skill, that is a skill, that is a talent. But his efficiency did fall a little bit. Again, I think it's a bad thing. The Mavericks lose him for nothing. But I think they can it's something they can overcome with the right series of moves. I'm not going to guarantee that, they're going to make him. We're going to have to let the dust settle and kind of take an assessment of what their roster actually looks like here, maybe tonight with the speed things are moving at, but,
exactly.
More likely here in a few days. But, it's not a catastrophe, and they definitely have scoring options and scoring that will plug into the hole, the Jalen Brunson size hole that their roster now has.
And you mentioned options on the table. There's rumored options, of course. We were talking about the scoring right there. They're not going to have a worry about scoring. But there's another playmaker that's actually playing basketball with Luka right now as we speak. He played earlier this afternoon. What have you heard about that possibility? Because there's been rumors about him coming to the Dallas Mavericks since last summer.
About Dragic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark Stein reported that they were very interested. I've heard the same. I think the question is he willing to sign a veteran's minimum? Because, with the what looks like full MLE going to JaVale McGee, that's going to be the one way to bring him here. But I think it is pretty conceivable, dare I say, likely that the Mavericks, that Goran Dragic does end up here. It seems clear that there's a role for him, that he would be in a position to play a lot of minutes, and he'd be in a position, I think, to be the right sort of mentor for Luka Doncic. Somebody who can tell him no at times. Somebody who has been a very close and tight with him over the years. So I think it's far too soon to be able to say, with certainty that Goran Dragic would be a Maverick, but that does seem like something that makes sense on both sides. And certainly I would love to see it. I think it'd be a cool thing to see, these two Slovenian legends of basketball be finally united after, I've been to Slovenia. I've certainly heard people imagine what it would be like to get those two together. And for that to actually happen, I think would be really cool.